Hey everyone, this is Charlie Shrem, and you're listening to Untold Stories. This is a show where we dive deep into the lives and personal histories of some of crypto's most influential leaders and find out how the crypto movement truly came to be. Let's dive in. What an amazing episode that you guys are about to listen to. We talked to Paolo Ardoino, who is the CTO over at Bitfinex. Yes, that's right, Bitfinex. We talked about such intense, fun subjects, breaking down myth versus fact. We talked about the history of Bitfinex, how it started, and how it evolved from something so bad to something so good, and how they are almost celebrating their 8-year anniversary. Paolo is so upfront and honest with his information and what we talked about. The stories were so great. We got exclusive access of in the room of how some of the decisions that Bitfinex had to make over the past 8 years were made. I do not want to spoil it for you. Listen to my ads, and you better be here when I get back. I'm Charlie Shrem. You're listening to Untold Stories. How do you actually live your life on crypto? How do you do it? I've been doing it since I first got started with Bitcoin back in, 2011. But since 2016, I've been using the BitPay debit card to spend my Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis. And it's been such a great product that I've been using it for over 3 years. BitPay is now sponsoring Untold Stories, and they're going to be giving away free Visa debit cards to all my listeners. All you have to do is visit bitpay.com/Charlie. It's such an easy card to use. You get the card in the mail, you download the BitPay app, you put Bitcoin on the app, and when you want to send Bitcoin from the app into your debit card, it only takes a few seconds and you can spend your Bitcoin anywhere credit cards are offered. It's really so easy. You almost wonder, why didn't this come out in 2011 when Bitcoin first launched? Well, it was very difficult to do. In fact, I actually tried to launch my own debit card, but I wasn't able to because the credit card companies were very reluctant to do it. But now BitPay launched their product, and a lot of other companies have launched credit cards and debit cards using Bitcoin over the years. I still will only use the BitPay card. I'm very loyal to the brands I like, and I hope you guys are too. The fees are very low. You can use it to withdraw cash at ATMs. You can use it all around the world with very, very low fees. A lot of companies have tacked on super high fees, and I don't like that. So check it out. bitpay.com/Charlie. That's bitpay.com/Charlie. You get a free card. You don't have to pay for it. Usually the card costs $10 or more. There's a commitment, but you don't have to do that here. It's a free card. There's literally no reason to not try it out. I've been using it for over 3 years. So check it out. I'm super excited to share that we're now working with Bitpanda here at Untold Stories. Bitpanda is a leading European platform for investing in digital assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Their core product is an easy-to-use crypto on-ramp and digital asset broker with over 1 million users. How cool is that? You can not only trade crypto like Bitcoin and Ether, but you can also trade digitized gold and around 30 other digital assets. What's amazing about Bitpanda is how easy it is to set up an account within minutes and get going with the minimum amount of just €1. So make sure you check out Bitpanda. They are a sponsor of Untold Stories. I love them, especially if you're in Europe or anywhere in the world. Bitpanda.com. Thank you so much, guys. Over the years, a lot of companies have tried doing crypto social networking. But the problem is that there are a lot of really good social networking apps already out there, like Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. How do we build a social network that's perfect for crypto? Well, I want to talk about Peppo, our newest sponsor of Untold Stories. Peppo is an amazing social media app that's built for the crypto community. What's really cool about it is that you can get rewarded for uploading and putting out good content, and you can also reward with crypto people who put up content that you really, really like. It's fast and simple, and it's the first crypto-powered app to be approved by the Apple and Google app stores. You can find me on Peppo right now at Charlie Shrem, the same handle as my Twitter, and I'm going to be posting interviews, travel videos, and more. So make sure you check out Peppo. It's super cool. Peppo.com. Enjoy it. Untold Stories wouldn't be here without the amazing production company Blockworks Group. few months ago, I approached Blockworks Group and I said, hey guys, I want to do a show, Untold Stories. Can we make it happen? And these guys are the only event and podcast production company that I trust. Really, this show is powered by them, and it wouldn't be here today without the amazing work of the Blockworks Group team. So for access to all the premier digital asset conferences and to check out their other podcasts in their network that they produce, check them out at blockworksgroup.io. That's blockworksgroup.io. I promise you will not be disappointed. The year is 2011, and people in the Bitcoin space, I say Bitcoin because there was no crypto back then, it was just Bitcoin. People in the Bitcoin space, traders especially, are starting to become disenfranchised and unhappy with the suite of exchanges that existed at that time in those days. All we had really was Mt. Gox and a few other smaller exchanges. And you had a group of amateur traders, you had people that were buying and selling and holding, OTC dealers, and I'll talk about OTC and why they were so important to those early days and what that even means. But, the crypto space, the Bitcoin space was growing, but the trading mechanism and where we were doing our trading and price discovery wasn't working. And born out of this was an exchange that is probably one of the most well-known companies in the Bitcoin space and now in the crypto space and a household name. Bitfinex was born in 2012, and we're very fortunate here to have on the show today the Chief Technology Officer, the CTO of Bitfinex, Paolo Ardoino. Thank you so much, Paolo, for coming on the show.
Thank you, Charlie, for having me. It's a big pleasure for me.
I'm happy that you're here on the show today because a lot of what we talk about is stories and technology. And being the CTO, you could probably enlighten us and talk to us about the early days of Bitfinex. I know you jumped into the company in 2014 as a developer, but what was the state of the technology on day one, on your first day working at the company? I mean, what were your first thoughts? Take us there. Take us to the place. I know you probably worked from home, or I know the company is based all over the world, but take me on like day one when you first finally pulled the curtain and you decided to work and work with all the people in the company and work on the technology and the state of the Bitcoin world in those days. Tell me what that was like.
Sure. So at the time, I was end of 2014, around November. I had my startup in London. I was working in finance with hedge funds, traditional finance. And one of the customers of my company was current Bitfinex and former Bitfinex CFO Giancarlo De Vasini, one of the brightest persons that I ever met. We started discussing because he had this great exchange. Bitfinex was one of a kind, and but he had some problems with the platform. There were moments when the trading engine couldn't cope with the demand of the market.
So I want to pause for 1 second. So what you just said was that the trading engine couldn't cope with the demands of the market. In fact, that's a very important statement because almost every single, in fact, I would venture to every single company in the crypto space in the past 10 years has had to and is still currently dealing with that. And so what you're telling me is that you were constantly on the defense. You couldn't play offense. You had to play defense constantly because the trading engine couldn't keep up.
Yeah, we had at that moment, there were moments where the number of orders that were sent to the matching engine were too many for it to handle them in a reasonable amount of time. So we had to reject the certain orders anyway delay the execution, and that was really bad, right? If you are running a trading strategy, if you want to handle your investments, you need to make sure that if you click a button or you send an order through an API and it gets executed within a reasonable amount of time. And that is like 1 second or 1 millisecond that is more likely, right? You want to have it executed as fast as you can. Then at that time, we had, of course, some slowness in our matching engine. So that's why I came on board to try to help the situation. So I clearly remember my first call with Giancarlo and CSO at that time. That was Phil Potter, a person of huge knowledge and that I really respect. He taught me a lot of things. We started discussing, and they were almost they decided to start integrating an external vendor was called Alphapoint into Bitfinex. And so my initial role was trying to integrate Alphapoint matching engine into Bitfinex in order to cope with the demand of Bitfinex customers.
So what year was this? 2014?
So the process took from end of 2014 till April 2015. The integration of Alphapoint never reached production because we had different setups.
But it probably taught you a lot of lessons.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So I think that I had a great experience with Alphapoint developers. The problem there is that Bitfinex was designed in a way that was not easily to adapt to Alphapoint, and Alphapoint had to develop the margin system that was customized on our needs. And you can see how that can be challenging to basically rush into this kind of integration with the risk that everything falls apart.
Yes, and when you're talking about a lot of money, you have to make sure that everything is working, even in your test beds. And so I want to talk about that for a second. If someone were to go to Bitfinex right now, and I'm not telling you this as a compliment. Well, it is a compliment, but it's more of a statement. If someone were to go to Bitfinex right now, and let's pretend they're new to the space, and they're told by their friends or whoever they want, they're a trader, or they dabble in stock trading and stuff, and they want an exchange that offers leverage, has good liquidity and volume, and so of course they go to Bitfinex. If someone goes to bitfinex.com right now, creates an account, passes through KYC very quickly, and starts trading, this person today who doesn't know the past 8 years of history of Bitfinex, and congratulations, you guys are going to be celebrating, if not already, an 8-year anniversary. That's a long time for a tech company. But I guess what my statement was, this person wouldn't know that the platform that they think is amazing right now had to go through probably dozens, if not many, many dozens of iterations and changes and fixes and updates, and it's probably still not finished. But you were very much part of that.
Yeah, when it was May 2015, I look at the complexities that we were facing, and in agreement with Alphapoint, we decided to part ways, and I suggested to Phil and Giancarlo to give me the chance to improve and start rewriting the matching engine on my own. So my main role was taking our, it's funny to say, but MySQL-based matching engine to a proper matching engine based on queues and in-memory trees. So that was one of the most amazing things that I was able to work on. So in a few days, we were able to improve the performance by 10 times. And by the end of the year, it was 100 times the performance. Well, it was kind of easy. You can imagine that we were able to match less than 100 orders per second when I joined it. So you can see that reaching out 10,000 orders per second was not so complex given the room of improvement. But that was actually possible with my effort. That was my solid focus for almost the rest of 2015. And another really funny thing is that, I'm not sure if you remember, but by the end of 2015, Bitfinex order books were only refreshing every 30 seconds and you can tweak it to 5 seconds, and we're only being refreshed by REST Ajax calls. That was, I mean, if you think about it, it's like 4 years ago, and it seems like really primitive, but we were in that situation, and still we were offering a good service by the end of 2015. Also, well, even before, because running kind of a leverage market with all the calculations and all the liquidation processes was quite complex. The Bitfinex team at that time was composed by 3 people, and I was the third person, right? So the story of Bitfinex is always been lean company, really focused on technology.
Never raised money, right? Started up on your own. We'll raise money down the road, but I'm saying the company was self-started for many years and self-funded.
Yes, I mean, if you are in Bitcoin business and you are a Bitcoin believer, you were making so much money with your job that you didn't need to raise money. Of course, if you started to hire tens or hundreds of developers, quickly we're going to need money. But we were really cautious in adding people to the company because of course, it creates more resilience and give more time to, let's say, improve things and makes people also a bit less stressed, but also decrease and till a certain extent security, and also increase the complexity of a company in general. So right now, still today, the entire trading team doesn't even account for 30 people, including quality assurance and design.
Until Bitfinex launched in 2012, there was only one other exchange before, and we could talk about that after, that offered leverage and margin trading. Now, I want to tell you, I'm not a trader. I don't come from a trader background, and I don't really understand, although I studied economics, I never really understood the intricacies of margin trading and leverage trading. Can you tell us why margin and leverage trading are so important and were so important at that time and still are, but without it, the crypto or the Bitcoin space and the trading world couldn't grow and expand, and price discovery would never be considered even real. And I would even go a step further and tell you, Paolo, that behind closed doors, I've talked to people who've tried to get Bitcoin ETFs, exchange traded funds in the United States, launched. And one of the most important things they told me, and this is years ago, there are other problems now, but one of the most important things they told me, that for a healthy market, for an ETF to be launched, you need a healthy market. And for a healthy market to exist, you need to have leveraged trading. Can you tell me why that is?
Well, I think that the most important thing is shorting. If you don't offer the ability to people to short a coin or an instrument in general, you miss the ability of proper price discovery. Because the only thing that you can do then is buy and hold, or you sell it, of course, but you don't have the possibility to bet against an asset. And it's a big problem, right? Because you want to let people not be exposed to certain particular asset. In fact, with margin trading, you can have collateral that is USD.
Okay, so before margin trading, before margin trading, you could only have exposure to an asset. You could only have the exposure to the appreciation of an asset and not the depreciation. So if you can't bet on that instrument or asset going up and down, then you'll never have true price discovery. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, you said it in a much better way than me, but exactly right.
Well, that's why it's my show, though. No, I'm just joking. Okay, so that was so important, and it was very difficult to do, and it still is. If you're in a new exchange and you want to launch, a spot trading exchange, that's one thing. But if you want to launch an exchange and offer leverage trading margin, being able to go like even 5x or 10x on your trade, be able to short and long, that's a whole nother ballgame. That's very difficult. Let's go back to 2011 for a second. So there was an exchange called Bitcoinica, and they were. So for those listeners who don't know, Bitcoinica, and I wouldn't even categorize them as an exchange. Bitcoinica was a platform, a technology platform that was launched by someone who was really smart in technology, but he was a kid. I think he was like 16 years old. And they were the first exchange to launch leveraged trading, but it was more of an experiment. And the platform was not really okay. There was a lot of holes and riddled with problems. And in fact, one of the largest hacks that we know today, 122,000 Bitcoin were stolen from Bitcoinica in 2011. And in fact, I'm still lost some of that money. Like I'm still literally in, I had a hedge fund guy last week, dude, call me and say, can I buy your claim? And I totally forgot about this claim. It's like 9 years later. So, okay. So why am I bringing this up? The reason I'm bringing this up is because people need to understand that whenever you have something negative, something positive will always come out of it. You know, when one door closes, another door will open. It's been, you know, you probably heard that quote since you were a kid. It's just one of those things. Bitfinex was born out of Bitfinex was born 6 months after the Bitcoinica hack. It was born out of the need to have a professional Bitcoinica. But from day one, you know, Bitfinex was dealing with the backlash of Bitcoinica and people kind of saying that there's similar code base, but nowadays that's simply not true. Can you clear up some of the early day information?
Of course. Rafael Nicole, former CTO of Bitfinex.
By the way, Rafael also lost money in some of these early... Dude, the early days, people don't realize there were so many fucking scams and Ponzi schemes. I can name you 3 of them that I lost money to, and Rafael also lost a bunch of money too on one of them. Like, dude, we were losing money left and right. There were so many scams and Ponzi schemes. That's just how it was, though. It was the Wild West.
Yeah, you had to use an exchange or a platform and do the sign of the cross and hope that everything was going well for a while, you know?
It's true. It's true.
But, Rafael is a really smart guy. I met him in 2014 as well. So he told me a bit the story of Bitfinex before I joined it. And yeah, he took the code and he fixed the security issues that Bitcoinica to its troubles. And from there, he started changing widely the code base. So the moment when I joined Bitfinex, the code base was actually really different. I made some researches myself because, of course, when you start working with a company, you want to make sure that it is a solid company and nothing bad will happen. So,
what did you find?
Yeah, I found that most of the code base was changed. All the relevant parts, it was a Ruby on Rails application. All the relevant models were cleaned up, and all the database structure, most of the database structure was changed. The backend processes were changed as well. So of course there were a few lines of code that were non-meaningful that were still the same. But I think that the amount of work that was put to rewrite from scratch during the first 2 years of life of Bitfinex was quite remarkable.
Tell me more about those days. I mean, tell me more about things that you found in your first few months working for the company.
So the first few months, I was basically working on a matching engine, but I was still already looking and trying to understand the weak spots of the platform. For example, the API queries were always directed to the central database that was MySQL. So the optimization of MySQL was not really properly done, in my opinion. So I came from a really strict computer science background. So, you start itching when you see certain things. But I can partially excuse that with the fact that the exchange was quite new when I came on board. And
I want to ask you about that really quickly. And this is not a question that I prepared. I'm just generally curious. I've always wondered how this works. So you have an exchange and you have millions of accounts, like Coinbase is a million accounts or 100,000 accounts. And you have tens of thousands, if maybe even hundreds of thousands of people trading dozens and dozens of different instruments in real time. So do you have like just one database that's constantly updating in real time, like a SQL database, or are there multiple, or do you have redundancies? Like, how does that work? And remember, you're talking to someone who is a script kiddie when it comes to, like, I just fuck around. My Python developing skills are decent enough to read, but like, try to give me like a education level 1 to 10. Give me like a 4 or 5.
Sure. So when I came into Bitfinex, it was actually like that. So you have a central MySQL database, and all the API and the UI interaction was happening on that central database. And that is not really how you want to design a scalable application. First of all, there is always the need of a caching layer. So we introduced Redis as a heavy caching layer. But that is good till a certain point. I think that one of the most interesting things that we have in Bitfinex is our new architecture that I start to deploy in production in early 2016, and mainly after the end of 2016. That is actually a set of in-memory processes that are synchronized by the matching engine with the ZeroMQ. That is one of the fastest networking libraries. So you have this whole set of in-memory processes that can feed in the interface, that can feed in the APIs, and the query is actually super fast, right? And you can have as many as you want of them. So you don't have to always actually query a central server. You have all these edge servers that have real time, and when I say real time, is 1 millisecond latency data. So you have to forget about the central database. The central database is to record data changes. And there can be some delay, right, on this central database. You have a queue that accumulates all these changes, and they will eventually be rewritten on that central database. But since you want to offer the best experience, the fastest experience to your users, to hundreds of thousands of users or million users, you have to have these in-memory processes that will keep serving super fresh data.
That's very interesting. And in your opinion, is this the most efficient way to do it? I know one of your roles, and I wanted to ask you about this later, and we can come back to it. But one of your roles is evaluating new technologies, and we can kind of jump into that. What type of new technologies are on the horizon as it relates to exchanges and for you? And what other new technologies, because as a technology officer, you know better than I do, what type of technologies should we be excited in Bitcoin that could be coming in the near future? We're constantly hearing about so many new technologies like Schnorr signatures and privacy and faster transactions and things like that. I'm not sure if you're keeping up to date with these things, but in terms of timelines, what type of new technologies and updates can we see in Bitcoin and with Bitfinex?
So when it comes to Bitcoin, I think that the most exciting thing for me is a Lightning Network. So
I love you.
That
No, I agree with you. I'm a huge fan of I think the user experience has a ways to go, but that's okay. It's not meant to be used by everyone, but I think that apps built on top of the Lightning Network, like what you're going to say. Dude, I totally interrupted you, and I'm so sorry. I totally apologize.
No.
But I think we'll see like Venmo and PayPal type apps utilizing the Lightning Network, and the world will never know it. Like, it'll just be better, faster, look good, and using the Lightning Network, but we'll never know it. But that's okay. Sorry, I interrupted you again. I'm a terrible host.
No, but I really appreciate that, because I could feel your excitement as well. But I believe that from a pure design point of view, Lightning Network is a payment system and peer-to-peer payment system as it should be, right? I mean, I'm not saying from a philosophical point of view. I'm saying exactly from the technical point of view, if you want to create something that is cyberpunk, that can resist to a world war, that can scale up to any number of transaction and nodes, the answer is Lightning Network. So there are no other ways around. So that is why I'm excited. I'm excited purely from a technological point of view, and from the fact that whatever happens in this world, you can have a system that in few years from now can resist to anything.
Are you ideologically a cyberpunk?
Yes.
I mean, tell me about you growing up in Italy. Where'd you even hear that term from?
I had a mix of let me tell you a bit about my history. So I grew up in a really tiny town in Liguria Riviera, that is in upper uh, west side of Italy, is on the seaside. It's a nice place, but it was my hometown was accounting for 500 souls, so really small one, and it was on in between the hills and the seaside. And my nearest friend was 10 kilometers from me, something like that. So I didn't have. I was spending most of my time um, sometimes playing outside in the fields with my grandpa, but most of the time I was inside. And so my father bought the first PC, was I think an 133 megahertz PC, was around 2000, sorry, 1992, 93, if I'm not wrong. But at the age of 8, I had my first computer, and I started playing with.
What type of computer was it?
Was Pencil, well, not Pencil, it was an x86 133 megahertz with I think 16 or 32 megabytes RAM. I started, well, first I had Commodore, of course, but the moment I started coding was with that computer. So I started with BASIC, and then suddenly I moved to C because it was much more exciting. C was offered. I started with C with the Fortran, sorry, with the Borland compiler, and I mean, I spent most of my afternoons playing with it because there was nothing else to do. So and I was one of the first, probably the first person in my hometown to have internet, and it was really early. Was I had 10 years old, I had internet, so I started going online.
Dial-up?
And yeah. I started, I think, with I was 18,000 bouts. I'm not sure if you had that as well, but it was really, really slow. And then moved to 36, and then 56, and then 64 kilobit per second was a really big jump
I remember that.
for, for my internet. And the only thing that I could do was actually trying to download Linux. I was really a big fan of Linux from since the beginning, and of course dual boot, because otherwise my father was shooting me if I was going to erase his Windows partition. But we had dual boot, and I was playing around all the afternoon while he was at work.
Do you remember a world where, and I know like my parents and grandparents will say something different, but do you remember a world where to get music in the internet age, there was no streaming services, there were no purchased downloadable music. So you had just CDs, right? And you had just CDs and cassettes and stuff. And then, but we lived in an internet age. We did stuff on the internet. Yeah, we had slow internet, but we still did stuff. And then the market and people wanted the ability to download music on the internet. They never said, hey, we don't want to pay for it. We just said we want it. And of course, the first ones that come online are like LimeWire, Napster, all these places where you illegally download music and movies. And then you had all the music and movie companies suing Napster, and people are going to jail and getting fined. And then born out of that technology are companies like today, like Spotify, where most people are more than happy to pay $8 a month to have an unlimited amount of music. It's so interesting how the technology evolves faster than people can say what even they want.
Yeah, I clearly recall the moment. I mean, I came from cassettes, like the Sony Walkman, and then moved slowly to CDs. I'm a big heavy metal fan, so I started having some Iron Maiden, Metallica CDs, and was really was really cool. But and I recall that there were first the WAV files, and MP3s came quite late. Well, I was a middle-aged kid at that
I'm
point.
just curious, who invented the MP3? I know we're going off topic here, but I think it's a question that most people would love to hear the answer to. Do you know?
Actually don't know. I recall that I was reading about that, but I don't recall the who did or the exact person or company.
Was
Do you
MP3
know?
the first like standard for files, like for music files, or was it something different?
So I think that the first files that I got was WAV file, WAV files. So they were basically pure rip-off of CD, right? So you could take let's say a song or a recording, and you can convert one-to-one non-compressed way into a WAV file, and that was usually demanding because the lines were really terrible, right, at that time.
Yeah.
So the compression was one of the most important things that came quite quickly as soon as people understood that we needed something better.
Why am I not surprised that MP3 was invented by a bunch of Germans? They invent everything good. I'm reading about it now.
Wow.
Wayne's reading about it too here on my monitor. They know that's so funny. How do you actually live your life on crypto? How do you do it? I've been doing it since I first got started with Bitcoin back in like 2011. But since 2016, I've been using the BitPay debit card to spend my Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis. And it's been such a great product that I've been using it for over 3 years. BitPay is now sponsoring Untold Stories, and they're going to be giving away free Visa debit cards to all my listeners. All you have to do is visit bitpay.com/Charlie. It's such an easy card to use. You get the card in the mail, you download the BitPay app, you put Bitcoin on the app, and when you want to send Bitcoin from the app into your debit card, it only takes a few seconds and you can spend your Bitcoin anywhere credit cards are offered. It's really so easy. You almost wonder, like, why didn't this come out in 2011 when Bitcoin first launched? Well, it was very difficult to do. In fact, I actually tried to launch my own debit card, but I wasn't able to because the credit card companies were very reluctant to do it. But now BitPay launched their product, and a lot of other companies have launched credit cards and debit cards using Bitcoin over the years. I still will only use the BitPay card. I'm very loyal to the brands I like, and I hope you guys are too. The fees are very low. You can use it to withdraw cash at ATMs. You can use it all around the world with very, very low fees. A lot of companies have tacked on like super high fees, and I don't like that. So check it out, bitpay.com/Charlie. That's bitpay.com/Charlie. You get a free card. You don't have to pay for it. Usually the card costs like $10 or more. There's a commitment, but you don't have to do that here. It's a free card. There's literally no reason to not try it out. I've been using it for over 3 years. So check it out, and thanks for listening to Untold Stories. All right, so I hope you didn't skip my ad because in the early part of the episode, we talked about how Bitpanda is working with us here at Untold Stories. Bitpanda is the leading European platform for investing in digital assets. I really like Bitpanda's approach. Why? I'll tell you why, so don't skip. Basically, what they're doing is to apply the same tech you're used to from Bitcoin to other digital assets. So, for example, you trade real precious metals like gold and silver on their platform 24/7 with ultra low fees. And what's really cool is that you can trade gold and silver and these other precious metals with other assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptos that they support. So in a nutshell, Bitpanda is advocating the tokenization topic. So they want to bring financial products like stocks, ETFs, and more to everybody who uses their platform anywhere in the world. So check them out, bitpanda.com. Support my sponsors. Have a great day. Over the years, I've learned a lot from crypto winters, a lot of the bull and bear markets, and there's a lot of things that I've learned. But one of the most important things that I've learned is that community is one of our strongest assets. It allows us to continue working together and talking to each other during the good times, the bad times, and hopefully not the ugly times. Over the past few months, I've been speaking with the Peppo team. These guys have spent years working with members of the crypto community and learning what we want in social sharing apps. And I'm really excited that Peppo is now one of the sponsors for Untold Stories. Even in the few weeks since they launched Peppo at DevCon, not that long ago, I've seen them make so many improvements, like hashtag search based on feedback from people using the app, and so many different features that combine the best parts of what we already love, that parts of Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, but it combines it in a perfect way with such a nice user experience and good security. It combines them so perfectly that it looks like, and it actually was built for the crypto community. You can download the app by going to peppo.com/stories, and you can find me there at Charlie Shrem, the same as my Twitter handle. Okay, so let's jump back to Bitcoin for a second. So when Bitfinex launched, one of the first, and I don't know if it's still true today, someone said in an interview and said, so how is Bitfinex different from Bitcoin? And the reason people kind of compared those two was they were really only the two exchanges at the time that were even seriously enough to be taken seriously. So someone asked that, and the answer that was given was Bitfinex won't have a hot wallet. Rather, it will settle at the end of every day, and therefore there's no hot wallet to hack. Was that a good idea, and is it still in effect today?
It is. So right now, Bitfinex keep a limited amount of funds on a hot wallet. The vast majority can be from 97% to 99% are in cold wallets on air-gapped machines or hardware wallets, because you don't want to get exposed funds so much exposed on the exchange directly. Even if our security is really best in class, the machine, we own the hardware, so we don't use any more cloud services like AWS, or we partially use them for edge services. We prefer to own our own hardware to install our operating system, make sure that it goes on bare metal, because security when it comes to managing someone else's money is the most important thing. So that is basically what it is today. We only, Bitfinex is known to not be the fastest to send out funds sometimes, because we ensure that on the hot wallet there is enough to fulfill the pending withdrawals and just a bit more. That's it. So if there is too much in the hot wallet, it gets immediately swapped to the cold wallet, and only a manual operation between multiple signers will refill it. So we take that really seriously, and we don't want to have problems on the security side. So we saw many times where too many funds were held on hot wallets, and that end up.
Yeah, of course. I mean, in the past 10 years of Bitcoin's existence, almost every exchange has been hacked at some point. In fact, even BitInstant, my company that I ran from 2011 to 2013, at one point, almost 30% of all volume in the world was going through us. I mean, but we were hacked too. And someone actually very smartly, I don't know how, actually I do know how, because he SIM swapped me back then, was able to wait until I was on a plane before trying to reset all my passwords. This is in 2012, I think. So it's happened to I know it's a crazy story, right? I should tell that story. If I only had a podcast called Untold Stories to tell my own stories. No, that's actually what I do. Half the time I tell my own stories. But I want to ask you a question. So every exchange has security flaws. Every exchange has been hacked. And in fact, the few that haven't, I almost ask myself, when? Because it has to happen. And when it does, you learn from it. So the question is that I have for you is this hot wallet mechanism, has that prevented hacks from being worse? Has that prevented things from actually happening? And what are some other technology redundancies that you put into place, or honey traps or things like that, to prevent hackers from coming in? Of course, I know there are things that you probably can't tell us, but what are some things that you can?
Sure. So first of all, the exchanges. So there is a big difference by exchanges that never been hacked or exchanges that never have been publicly hacked, right? Um,
Oh, it's a good.
so
I
I
didn't want to
guess that
say
is.
that, but I know that's true. I didn't want to say that.
Well, sorry to say that,
No, it's true
but I
though.
think it's true, right? So, well, I mean, I don't have any.
No, no, no.
I'm
I'll
just
say it.
saying.
It's true. It's definitely true. Like I don't have any firsthand knowledge, but I mean, it's got to be true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it happened, but you can think that it might have happened, right? If you can, of course, if you are able to damage the problems, you might be able to do that. Unfortunately, it was not the case of Bitfinex. When it happened to Bitfinex, of course, all the bells and whistles around in the entire community. So, and was not even a question, right? I mean, even if sometimes we get blamed for transparency, we were quite transparent back then even. But anyway, I think that hot and cold wallet is the best mechanism to prevent hacks in general. Because even if in the worst case scenario, and hacks cannot be only external, right? Also internal. You want to make sure that there is not too much money on the exchange to raise interest from the outside
Yeah,
and on the inside.
it's like someone, you live in a neighborhood and you want to set up a security system. If someone's trying to rob your house, they're going to figure it out. But essentially, you want to have good enough security that the hacker or the thief says, "I want to go to someone else's house."
Yeah, and you don't show your gold bars through your I don't know, the house window, right? The hackers might want to know or will know that they are in a safe box in a really secure bank. If you show them all the goodies that you have, they are more interested to hack you. And so I think that and is clear that cold wallets on a hair gap machine or hardware wallets and with multi-sig are really, really another story, right? So hackers will go towards the weakest points that are online wallets rather than trying to break the security of a multi-sig cold wallet. So I think that is works really well, and it didn't let us to have any further issues. And also, we have full reconciliation system in on the platform. We use multiple nodes for each blockchain to make sure that we don't have one single source of truth. We have real-time reconciliation, so if there is any issue with any accounting, we get immediately alerted. We stop withdrawals and deposits. So everything, we have all the kind of best bells and whistles. I personally never traveled too much for long distances. I never, for example, personally been outside of Europe, because the moment that I started to have that kind of allowance, then it's the moment I started to be involved in Bitfinex, and I don't want ever to leave my ship alone. So I'm really taking that seriously. It's like my duty. I feel that duty so heavy on me that I don't. If since I'm responsible of looking towards other people money, I want to make sure that I'm always there, always available. I never took one day of holiday, and I will never do until I'm in charge.
You need to take a vacation, dude. You need to do it
You
for
know,
your health, like even a day.
yeah, I know, but I mean, I am having a lot of fun
Can I
here,
tell you what I
and
want to do? I want to do this. I want to get a I have to talk to my wife about to see what she thinks, but I want to get like a flip phone that has no internet, only SMS and phone calls. And so when we have like dinner, just me and her, I take that and not my cell phone for emergencies or whatever. This way I'm
you can
not.
have a nice startup. The Motorola's.
No, someone invented it. It's called the light phone, but they're charging like a crazy amount of money for it. And I said, why don't you just go to the local convenience store and you can buy one for like $10? You don't need, there's not a whole thing. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back 8 years ago again. And I don't know if this was I don't know if this was like a preset, I don't know if this was a conversation the company had in advance or like a policy of the company, but Bitfinex took an approach of what I like to call extreme transparency. And what I mean by that is, your staff, and in fact, you had someone whose job was to like full time just be on Zane Tackett, to be on Reddit, to be on the blogs, on forums, community engagement. Phil Potter, your chief strategy officer, worked very closely with the Whale Club, which still is a huge group of traders in the Bitcoin space. So what I mean by extreme transparency is you guys basically took an approach of, hey, we're not going to be like, let's just say Coinbase, for example, and everything that we say has to go through like 15 lawyers. Instead, we want to talk to our users. We want to talk to our users constantly. If something good happens, we want to talk to our users. If something bad happens, we want to talk to our users. So I feel, in my opinion, this has been a double-edged sword. It has been really, really good in transparency, but it also makes it very difficult to prevent FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt from coming out, because when you're trying to play defense and arguing against all these different rumors in real time, you kind of get lost in the weeds. And the other way is if you let things die down and then you come out with a statement, it may be easier. But at the same time, I don't like that other approach too. So there's a lot of like myth versus fact that we can discuss. But I guess, what are your feelings on that approach? Do you think it has worked? Does it ebb and flow? Is it better sometimes and worse other times? What are your feelings about that?
Yeah, I think that you raised a really good point. So Phil was really well known back in time on Wellpool TeamSpeak channel. He was really often going there discussing about problems or good things that we were doing. And I think that it was really good approach because, Bitfinex never had a marketing or a PR person till this September.
No, you never did. And when I got an email from your PR person, I was a little surprised. I said, "Who's this person?"
Yeah, we never had a marketing team, and we were just guys technological guys that were running a tech first company, always with their heads down, working on creating cool stuff. And basically, the artifacts of that good stuff were directly talking to the community. Without not many filters, I would say. Sometimes was good, sometimes was bad, of course. But I think we were really open. But, that was the fact that we only went on certain channels was taken by the rest of the community, especially the new people that were coming on board in 2017, 2018, as a fact of really lack of transparency. So basically, Bitfinex was in the Tether were deemed as really non-transparent companies because we were just talking with a smaller set of community, or not talking too much at all because we were so focused on our business. Well, the entire rest of the other companies had like PR people, like 30 people, 30 employees in the marketing team. I mean, we had 4 today, 2 on the PR side and 2 on the marketing team side. So it's still 4. It's still really small compared to competition.
No, it's extremely small. So do you think that strategy was better then and not as good now? I mean, you guys have a PR company. Why is social media an important strategy here to like decide certain channels? I mean, what kind of changed in the Bitcoin space over the years where you guys are now saying, hey, we need to adopt a different strategy?
So, well, it is better now in the sense that it means that Bitcoin is going mainstream. So we cannot expect that everyone has the same understanding, the same knowledge of the crypto space that someone that like us that is in there since a lot of years had. So I think that is fair to say you need to approach and use more traditional system to talk with your enlarged community. Now you have millions of users, and everyone expects the same standards. Everyone expects to have the CTO to talk publicly, to go on Twitter, to be on Twitter, to say.
Or even being on this show.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think that is I'm personally a really shy person, And I saw the necessity of expose myself more on the social media and doing podcasts, because I understand that the reality of things is that if you don't talk publicly, people think that you might have something to hide. And that's why, I mean, the fact that you are giving me this space, or I'm going on Twitter, is I think is a really good thing. Even though I'm, as said, by definition, a shy person. Um, I think that our marketing team now is doing great. They are just, looking at them being already just introduced in this space, but they are doing a great job, and we are trying to adapt and compete with companies that are doing this since more time than us. And I think that our team is just 4 people, but is really lions. They are really great persons. They know how to handle difficult situation or create amazing campaigns. So I'm sure that within the next months you will see that more.
That's very interesting. And so on the theme of debunking myth versus fact, I want to talk about a few different topics. So one of the first things I want to ask you, and we don't need to spend too much time on it, is the whole saga of crypto capital. So, and I want to give you a little bit of background. I actually remember in 2000 and I think it was like 2014, 15, 16. I forget the exact year, but I remember when I met. I was in Panama, and I actually met some people who were working with crypto capital, and I thought the idea was great, and the idea is great, and it's kind of a shame how things turned out. But I want to ask you about the concept of crypto capital and why it was important, because let's go back for a second. The market finds demand. And when there's a demand, when the market needs something or wants something, the market will create something. And so crypto capital was created out of a need for banking in the crypto space. And it served a really good purpose for many years. It allowed you guys to work in fiat and accept dollar deposits around the world. What kind of happened? And from what you can tell me, did things start off really good and eventually this company started being shady, or were they always kind of like operating in the gray area?
Oh, well, from what I can tell, I mean, I'm not directly exposed to this problem and was not directly involved in that relationship. But what I can tell is that, first of all, you're absolutely right. Crypto capital served a need of of the crypto community, because
not just you, other companies too. You are the victim here, but I know other victims too. There were other companies that also worked with crypto capital. But it's not talked about a lot.
But I mean, banking problems are quite common in the crypto industry. I keep hearing a lot of people till in 2019 that get their bank account shut down because the banks are afraid to deal with anyone that trades or it works for a crypto company. And that is a shame, right? So crypto capital was fulfilling that kind of need, and they had all the licenses. So we did a thorough due diligence on them when we started to using them, and they had all the right cards to serve our customers. So eventually, the funds were frozen, and people say that there are $850 million that are lost. They are not lost. They are frozen. They are frozen in different jurisdictions. Because, if you have the money, let's say that you're a customer of one of the top tier banks, HSBC or whatever, right? And they commit, you are just a customer, right? And they commit something nasty. I mean, you are the victim, right? It's not your fault that they did it. They commit something nasty. And I'm not saying that crypto capital did something shady, but I'm just saying that we don't have yet any proof. At least I don't have any proof, in the sense that I'm not a lawyer and I don't have any proof that crypto capital did something shady. But even if they did, Bitfinex is just a pure victim here. I mean, if you are a customer of a bank and that bank does something, some wrongdoing, you are supposed to not be affected by that problem. you keep thinking that your funds are safe. So we are working in all the jurisdiction, and we have teams of lawyers in each jurisdictions that are working on the recovery and the unfreezing of the funds, and we are making our case in all these different courts.
But that's what's crazy is you guys are fighting for your users. And I want to say that this is not the first time that you guys said, we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it. We're not going to take this lying down. We're not going to screw our customers. We're going to make our customers whole. And I want to ask you, I want to go back to, and I forget when it actually happened, but do you remember a few years ago, there was a hack, and you could tell me more about it. And then you guys launched the BFX token. And I have to tell you, as much as I'm a fan of Bitfinex and I've been using Bitfinex for so long, I had some moral issues, and I never do. I never like say to myself like, you know, I have moral issues with something, but I had some moral issues, morality issues with BFX, with you guys launching your token. I'll tell you why, and I resolved it. It allowed me to have some very, very good philosophical conversations, but I had some morality. Do you want me to tell you why, or why don't you first?
Sure.
Give me a little bit of background for our listeners who don't know of, you know, like just for a minute, what was the BFX token? What happened? And how did you make it have such an overwhelmingly positive outcome that even people who weren't victims of the hack, who bought BFX tokens, ended up making money?
Yeah, so that was one of the most interesting part of Bitfinex history, I would say. So, after the hack, I basically was elected CTO there. So, first of all, the hack happened between the first and the second of it was night, almost early morning, really early morning of the 2nd of August 2016, my time. So I was waking up, and we first started investigating the issue. We at the first 1 or 2 days was really terrible. You feel really so down. Your company is in a big trouble. It is the best job that you ever found, the best people that you could work with. So everyone feels terrible. Everyone is really, the morale is horrible. So we spent the first few days in identifying the issue, and then after 2 days we say, okay, what we do? Giancarlo and Phil and Stu, our legal counsel. They were lions. They said, we will not take this seat.
Lions.
We want to make our They said, we want to make our customer whole. And I was with them, right? They said, Paolo, do you agree that you will take charge of all the technological side while we take charge of everything else and we start back again? Do you feel comfortable in doing that? Say, yeah, of course. Let's do it. And we said, okay, I took care of bringing back the platform in 4 days. I think that I never sleep for 4 days. And then they basically said, okay, let's figure out how we can recover from this from a financial point of view. And I think that was a brilliant solution from the three of them, from Giancarlo, especially with Phil and Stu as well. They said, okay, what we can do, let's figure out the right number to distribute, and I know that is really controversial, but distribute the loss evenly among the customers, proportionally among the customers. So they came out with this haircut of 36%.
Okay, wait. So how much in dollar wise or Bitcoin wise was lost?
119,000 Bitcoin. That was a huge number.
Wow, it still is. Holy crap.
Yeah, especially with this price. The price at that time was 600, right? And the amount of loss was $72 million, if I'm not wrong. And it was a lot of money, especially for the volumes of 2016. Because remember, 2016 was still a really calm year, right? There was not big volumes in an entire month.
It was the accumulation stage right before the major bull run. I remember.
Yeah. So the money that you were making in 2016 was nothing compared to 2017. So we said, but we decided to go back on track and and resume our operation. We came up with this 36% of haircut, and we created the BFX token. And we started trading back, I think was the 8th of August.
So what was the BFX token for? Was it so you basically distributed the loss across all the customers, and everyone basically took a 30% haircut? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, everyone took a 36% haircut.
Okay, so if you had $10,000 in your account before, you now still have $7,000, which is still great, and then the other $3,000 you're going to have in value in BFX tokens, and it was basically $1 per token.
That is correct. So the initial price of the BFX tokens were $1, and we had this IOU that was called BFX that was a promise to buy back the BFX tokens at $1 always. Or we gave the possibility to the holders to convert that BFX into equity.
Okay, so I want to pause you right there, and I want to tell you why. That whole scene, that whole scenario, that whole saga, I'm going to call it, that story is going to go down, in history as one of the largest socioeconomics experiments under Bitcoin. And I'll tell you why. Because the concept of tokenizing debt didn't exist and in the cryptocurrency space, and you were the first ones to do it and do it successfully. And it provided an experiment because you had someone like me watching, and you had a lot of people watching to see, would this succeed or would this fail? And then let's go to why I had moral issues for a second. So I studied economics and I majored in economics, and wherever I am, whether I'm in prison or I'm home or wherever I am, I'm always watching with an eye of an economist. And I could tell stories about crazy things that happen, but in my eyes, I was watching this and I was saying to myself, okay, so I like this concept. So let's just say you have a company, and the company has investors, and the company becomes insolvent because bad choices were made. They took bets on certain technologies. Those technologies didn't work. The company lost some money. And now basically the company's going to their investors and saying, hey guys, we're basically going to pay you back 50% of your money, and the other 50% is going to be tokenized debt. And we're going to do the same thing Bitfinex does. We're going to convert it at a certain price, or you have the opportunity to convert it into equity. And it's a great concept. It's a great idea because dude, I'm still dealing with bankruptcy courts for two companies, Bitcoinica and Mt. Gox, for over 8 years. 8 years. Bankruptcy courts. So what you did is so game-changing because it allows you to avoid bankruptcy courts. But this is the problem. This was the problem, and this is why I had more morality issues with it. The problem that I saw was that it relies on good actors, it relies on good intentions, and it relies on the executives to have a lot of self-discipline on morality, because there's no regulatory authorities at this point that would regulate this concept of tokenizing debt. So what you did, we're lucky that Bitfinex had still has executives and people that have good intentions, that have good morality, that are not out to scam, that are good people, that are transparent. But do you see how this can easily become something where people don't have good intentions, that how this can easily become something that can become a scam? And then my second problem is, how do we prevent, and you tell me your answer, and this is where my morality, how do we prevent companies from faking their bankruptcy or faking insolvency in order to buy back their own debt at pennies on the dollar? And what I mean by that is, let's go back to the example of the random company. How do you know the company is not scheming in the background and saying, hey, why don't we use this opportunity to tell our investors that we're insolvent when we're really not, to basically make them think that they have to take this huge haircut and then buy these tokens back, and then we're able to basically, take a huge drawdown on our debt before we're about to embark on something big. How do you prevent companies from doing that? So this was my morality issues, and I'll tell you after you give me your answer, I'll tell you how I came to terms with my morality and how I was able to finally sleep at night.
Yeah, no, I get both of the points that you make. I think that, of course, I'm speaking from the Bitfinex point of view, we would have avoided the entire mess, the entire stress, the entire terrible moments that we pass, because we were making enough money and a lot of money, even for 2016, and we didn't need that. But I can see why and how a company could do that, and in a space that is not regulated, not get caught. So I don't have a good answer to that. I just think that.
Do you know what my answer is? Yeah. My answer is the market. I have to have trust and faith in the market. And the way I slept at night was I said to myself, if the market, if people are if people are stupid enough to fall for a scam like that, not you, I'm saying like if someone were to create a fake scenario, and with bad intentions, if people don't have enough due diligence and are not smart enough investors to look at the books and to make their own decisions, then maybe they don't deserve to be investors in the first place. So that's my answer. Like you, I'm a cyberpunk. I'm a free market economist, and I believe that markets are efficient, but only when we allow them to be. But the problem is that as humans, we want, instant gratification. We want the market to be efficient today. But as we saw with the perfect example of the ICO bubble is that, the positivity that we have in the market today and the things that we're going to prevent from happening down the road come from the mistakes that we had from the ICO bubble. And not that there were all mistakes, there were a lot of good, but there was also a lot of bad. But if those mistakes were never made, then how are we supposed to learn from it? So I'm a believer in the free market. That's just me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that your answer is a good one. And being a liberal, extremely liberal myself, I see that markets should move in a completely free way. And people should, especially in this kind of market, should do a lot of due diligence, not fall for scams, really study a lot and investigate. Otherwise, we will basically let scammers get all the money that should go to really good projects and to improve the speed of development of good projects.
That's such an amazing message to end on, because there's nothing I could say that would be better than what you just said. So take heed, our listeners, take heed and listen. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Paolo, thank you so much for taking the time, especially because you have not taken one vacation day. You decided to give me an hour and 6 minutes of your time today for coming on the show. Thank you so much again. And I look forward to hopefully meeting you someday and talking to you again soon.
That is great. Thank you very much, Charlie. It was a pleasure to be with you on your podcast.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. New episodes of Untold Stories are released every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 a.m. EST on untoldstories.com, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Untold Stories is produced by Jason Yanowitz, Michael Ippolito, Reed Hannaford, and Riley Silbert of Blockworks Group. Our account executives are Gina DeFelice and Julie Muroff. Our content is written by Kathy Zolo, Ronnie Tishner, and Scott Offord. Special thanks to Wayne Dallaire from Jump Dog Audio Productions. And of course, I'm your host, Charlie Shrem. You can follow me on Twitter @CharlieShrem to continue the conversation. Send me some messages, feedback, or anything you want to say. And remember, please give some love to my sponsors, and I'll see you next week. Remember, strength in numbers, and information is power.